Hello, everyone. Welcome and thanks
Yeah.
for coming in. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, Lyssa.
Hi.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good evening. We only have 40 minutes together, and I think we might be able to use that time best if we spend 2 minutes right now just breathing together to get ourselves very present, and also just imagine that we are sitting around a campfire together. Is that okay for you all if we do that?
Sure. Yep.
Sure, Lyssa.
So let's just do that, become present together in this moment.
Hello.
And as you start to bring your attention back to everyone, see if you can imagine that there is a light in the middle of your chest where your heart is. And see if you can imagine that we're all sitting in a circle together, and that the light from your heart connects with the light from the hearts next to you and the hearts across from you and the hearts around you, so that we can be aligned and make the best use of our 37 minutes remaining. And now open your eyes and look around at the people here and see the company you keep. Yeah. I have chills on my skin, knowing that we're all over the globe, yet we're together. What a miracle this technology is, and that each of us showed up here. I'm aware that there are a lot of questions you have, a lot of things you'd like to talk with me about. And what I want to do is to be able to address those ones that people, that many of you have some passion around. So I'm thinking a way for us to start is for you to start putting your questions into the chat. And here's how it would be most useful, is if you could start your question with the words, how do I? And the reason for that is that it will require you to get down to the essence of what is the most important part of your question or your situation, and it will also make it personal to you. And then we'll see if there are some themes, and if there are, I will ask for one of you to come live with me and interact, and we'll address that question or that theme. How does that sound? People are already putting in, how do I? Yeah, go ahead.
I just said that is a brilliant suggestion, Lyssa. So
yeah,
I
great.
did put in the chat, but
yeah, I see that. Thank you.
right.
Yeah, I've
Sure.
learned some hard knock lessons over time.
No, but I think I'm going to steal that away. So
Great. Please do.
all right.
That's
Sure.
what we're here for. We're here to share and learn together.
Thank you.
And I'm here to learn too.
Likewise. So.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the pace at which these are coming in. It's a thoughtful pace. We're not just rushing to get everything out. Yeah.
Yes, because we are time boxed. That's why nobody wants to miss their question.
Yeah. No, that's okay. This is good. We can get a lot done with a thoughtful pace. We don't have to rush around like we've got our head on fire.
Yeah, agile is not about speed, it's about value.
I'd like to think so.
That is true, but each question is valuable to the person asking. So that's where the value is. So
yeah, good. So I'm seeing a bit of a theme, which is basically around influence. How do I influence leaders? How do I make the business embrace agility? Those are some topics. Does it sound useful to you all to talk about how do you influence, and especially people who might not want to be influenced?
yeah. I think both those areas are key, business and leadership.
Yeah, great. And so, Hari Krishnan, would you come on live with me for a few moments so we can talk about influencing? And your question was around the leaders, but we can talk about influence using your situation, but more generally too.
Yeah, sure. Thanks
Hi.
for the opportunity. Hey.
Hi. Good to see you. Oh, yeah, I have to find your little box. There you are. Hi.
Yeah.
Good.
Influencing is part of our work as an Agile coach. As a coach, we surround with leaders going through different challenges. Leaders in different levels of the organization that we are dealing with, and they go through their grind and their hero's journey. I would call it as in different phases of their hero's journey. And it's extremely difficult to connect with them and to influence them, to understand them, and to make the difference, and make this transmission, be part of their success.
That's
and
right.
It is when they are challenged, when they are under pressure, so-called pressure, what they kind of get into, or they make themselves off, and then it is they don't listen.
Right.
And they just cut themselves off from listening. How do I influence as a coach, as an agent, in the midst of this journey?
Yeah, you're already doing a really good job by noticing, are they open to your influence?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, I think. I think Agile coaches spend a lot of time hitting their head against the proverbial brick wall, because they keep trying to influence people who are actually not open to their influence. Yeah. So what if they're not open to your influence? Well, first of all, I would say that nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, that's
No, everything changes. And as you say, as leaders get into pain, some of those leaders, or this is true for the business people too, will shut down and sort of do their old things just a little bit harder, and become even less open to your influence. Some of those leaders might actually be ripe for your influence when they're in a moment of pain. But here's the thing. You can provide information to those leaders about how agility might be useful to them. But then notice the moment at which providing more information is actually sending them into a closed position versus an open position.
Yeah.
Have you felt that?
You're right.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah,
good.
you're right. It scares them.
Of course. It scares all of us. Agile scares the hell out of us, and it should, because it's a completely different way of working. It's actually completely aligned with the complex world we find ourselves in, yet very few of us actually want to deal with that complexity. We'd rather go back to a world that just feels much simpler, even though the world is actually not that way anymore, right? So, Hare Krishnan, when you find yourself at that moment where you realize, trying to convince this person about agility is actually not going to help anymore, then it's useful to if they will allow you, it's useful to start asking them questions about their own experience.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? Yeah. So like, what is it like for you as a leader in this organization when you're trying to keep everyone employed and we don't even know if we can do it? You know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right, because they say, I'm not sure what's going to happen in next 2 years' time.
That's right. And
Yeah.
Here's the beautiful thing. Agility helps us work with the I'm not sure what's going to happen. Because all agility requires is that we have a vision, and sometimes the vision might be, let's just keep people employed till the end of the year. And then we ask the question, to achieve that vision, what is the thin slice of something I need to do right now that's right in front of me? Because we can all get so overwhelmed so quickly. I know myself in this COVID-19 era, I have been so overwhelmed so often. And what has saved me is coming back into my agility practice, and I use the personal agility system. I come back into that practice and say, okay, what's the step that's in front of me? Or I have someone I'm learning for right now, and she says, what's the next wise move? And I like that. I mean, so even leaders and even business people need to consider, what's the next wise move? Because we're unlikely to be able to see very far right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has this been helpful to you at all?
Yeah, it's been helpful. It's been really helpful, at least to mirror them and ask them what's the next wise thing that they could do, and they're in fact doing what they can do best at this point.
Yeah, and first, just empathize with where they are and how hard it is for them. So people are unlikely to allow you to take them on a change journey until they know that you get them where they are now. Exactly. And that you honor where they are now. Even if it's the most unagile thing in the world that you hate, that you think it's horrible, you know, you still honoring where they are now allows you to be the partner for them to take them somewhere new. Yeah. Thanks for coming on for this question.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's see what else we have. So we have a lot of things about Agile coaching, like how do I move from Scrum Master to Agile Coach? How do I measure agility being an Agile? That's a little bit different. How can we balance coaching and consultancy? Give me just a moment to look at these things. And how do I differentiate between Agile Coach and Life Coach? Someone who wants to talk with me for a few moments about this Scrum Master Agile Coach progression, go ahead and bring yourself online. It might be the person who put that in the chat. I can't find it anymore. Go ahead and bring yourself online. Let's have a chat and see if we can be useful to you and to everyone. Who would that be? How do I go from Scrum Master to Agile Coach?
Yeah, Lyssa. So it's mine, Balaganesh.
Hi, Balaganesh. Hello, good to meet you. Hi.
Yeah.
I love the lime green curtains behind you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Lyssa.
Good.
So yeah, I am currently working as a Scrum Master in Teradata. It's a data analytics company. So I moved myself from a developer to a Scrum Master on account of the some of the changes which I myself brought in my team, and I'm currently working as a full-time Scrum Master role. So yeah, the term coaching actually attracted me a lot because that's where everyone looks at and that's where everyone needs. So this agile coaching, so what are the components involved in it, and how do I upscale myself to agile coach, and what's make the vast difference between coaches, means effective coaches and the persons who are actually doing the role for the sake of the title Agile Coach. So I just have a summarized valuable inputs from you so that I can able to apply it on myself and help the team.
So, one of the things that I think is very sad that's happened in the last 10 years is that there has become a big difference in most people's application of Agile between a Scrum Master and an Agile Coach. And that somehow in many organizations, Scrum Masters have become maybe just like glorified admins. And that somehow only the Agile coaches get to do the really deep work with teams, like helping them collaborate better or helping them navigate conflict. And I think that's something that in the last couple years I have been trying to reverse. And I think that my book, Coaching Agile Teams, unintentionally contributed to that. So the thing I would like to say to you and to everyone here is that Scrum Masters are Agile coaches. They are just Agile coaches at the level of one or a few teams. That's their scope of influence or and the scope of their work, right? Agile coaches that are across more teams and that would be then coaching Scrum Masters and others in the larger ecosystem. They need the same skills as Scrum Masters, and Scrum Masters need the same skills as them. The only difference is the scope of influence, right? And so we make a big mistake when we start to equate Scrum Master and Agile Coach with different levels in an organization that tie to titles in an organization. And I understand why organizations do this, but it makes it harder for us, right? It makes it harder for us to practice our craft. So one document I'll point you to, and I'll put the link for it in the chat right now for everyone, is this thing called the IC Agile Learning Objectives for Agile Facilitation and Coaching. And the reason I point you to that is the very front of that article, for about the first 10 pages, it talks about the steps of developing yourself in Agile coaching, from being at the Agile team facilitation step, which is similar to the Scrum Master step for one or a few teams, being at the Agile coaching step, more of across a program or value stream, and then eventually stepping into enterprise coaching. And so that's the first part of that article, or that PDF that I just posted in the chat. The second part are the literal learning objectives of what you should expect each person to be able to do and be both at each of those levels. And so this is a really big question you're asking, but there's a lot of help for it in the industry. And so I wanted to point you to that. I just realized another resource that would be probably really useful here. And I'm going to copy it into the chat as well. It's a white paper I wrote a few years ago. And the reason I'm posting it into the chat is that it talks about those development steps. And it talks about actually setting up a development program inside of an organization to create internal Agile coaches at all those levels. At the very end of it, it says, here's what you should expect from someone at the Scrum Master level, and here's what you should not. And here's what you should expect from someone at like the program level, team coach level, and not. So I've said a lot. So Balaganesh, what of that is useful, if anything?
Yeah, can you tell once again? Sorry, Lyssa.
Mm-hmm. I was just wondering, I went on sort of a big talking stint there, and I'm wondering if anything in there was useful for you, and if so, what is it?
So yeah, so I would go through the resources which you have been telling.
Yeah.
And yeah, I understand that there's a lot of overlapping. It's just the scope which is different from Scrum Masters or Agile coaches. So in the Agile coach level, you might be having a bigger scope to interact with more people and coach in a bigger level. So that's how the learning objectives and the white paper which you have sent it. So we'll go through it and then we would read and try to implement it thoroughly. So
we'll see. They're meant to be
takeaways.
Yeah, they're meant to be starting points, not end points. Yeah, and see what's useful for you in there. Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
For sure.
Thanks a lot for selecting that question, Lyssa. So
yeah, you're welcome. A lot of people have similar questions.
That
sure.
was a nice white paper. Really liked it. I just saw it the
Oh,
first time.
good.
Thank you so much.
Good. Yeah.
Lyssa, what is the difference between an Agile coach and an enterprise Agile coach? Both are same apart from the influence?
Well, the influence is definitely different. An enterprise Agile coach is likely to enter the organization at the level of the top leadership team. And their scope of influence is more around the entire organization and the transformation in the entire organization. And an enterprise Agile coach has not only the skills, but also the gravitas, the presence, such that leaders will actually value what they say. And this is part of our problem, is that we have people in Scrum Master and program level Agile coach roles trying to influence leaders when leaders actually are not at all interested in what they have to say, because they just don't have that level of gravitas that leaders would say, oh, well, hang on, I should probably listen to what you have to say. So I think that the levels work beautifully together. I like to see one or two enterprise Agile coaches in an organization, and how many ever program or value stream Agile coaches we need, and how many ever Scrum Masters. Now, all of this will run its course, because at some point in the future, when we Agile coaches have transferred enough skill and enough ability to the individuals, the teams, the value streams, the organization, we will not be needed. So the entire purpose of coaching is to transfer Agile in a way that it will sustain itself inside of other people for the long haul. Now, are our jobs over tomorrow or next year or maybe even 10 more years? Probably not, based on the progress we've made just in this last 10 years. We still have a long way to go. Right? But I really want to impress, because there's been a couple questions in here about like, why have an Agile coach, and when do I stop coaching, stuff like that. My point of view is that the purpose of being an Agile coach at whatever scope of influence is to transfer agility, because it's new. It's a brand new thing on this planet. And it happens to work beautifully with the complex world we're in. And we're just learning how to deal with both agility and complexity. So we've got a long way to go. Can I get some help from someone who has been looking at these questions, who can see another theme? We have...
I think people are asking references for the journey.
What are they asking?
They're asking
Lyssa?
for resources, yeah. Resources or references.
Oh,
Sorry, Lyssa, there was an interesting question I saw here, which was about the role of Agile coaches or future of Agile coaches in post-COVID era. So,
okay.
that's a very interesting.
If anyone can tell me what the post-COVID era is going to be like, I think we could probably have a conversation.
So that was a very interesting one I saw. So yeah. I thought you might want to.
So here's, it's the big question, right? And we have so many topics in this open space about how do I do remote coaching? How does this thing even work? I don't know what happens in the post-COVID era. I just know that we have been drastically, I like the word some people have been using here, not distributed, we've been drastically scattered. We are now on scattered teams. I love that phrase, because that's exactly what's happened to us. And yet we have this technology that binds us. And I don't have answers for you on how all the things that happened constantly without even trying when you were there in person get replicated in a remote world. I do know that I have been working on the Coaching Agile Team's audiobook. And so I have been reading and re-understanding the meaning of every single sentence in that book. And so often I'm reading sentences that assume that we are in person together.
Exactly.
And that we're sitting there in high bandwidth communication in a team room. And I know that actually hasn't been the reality for many teams for many years now. It's not like that was always true for everyone. And yet I know when I've experienced that it is like a drug. I can get addicted to that very easily. And there are a couple, so I have a nostalgia for it. So that's part of it. I have a nostalgia for being in person. And I hope that at least partially, and maybe this era is teaching us when we need to be in person, like maybe that's the post-COVID thing. When do we really need to be in person and when can we be scattered? So that's an interesting thing for you all to take up as a community. Saish, you're wanting to come in.
Yeah, I wanted to reflect on your thoughts, Lyssa. Thanks for the. So I know we all agree that post-COVID era we don't know how it is going to be. But one thing is for certain, right? At least the leadership, the management is open to the teams being distributed and scattered, which probably they were not as much earlier. So the chances of the team being distributed is bringing us one big challenge. When the teams were together, probably there is an opportunity for the conflicts to come forward, evidently, which now is not going to come up evidently because teams are distributed, communication challenges and conflicts are at risk to be internalized by the team.
Yeah.
And that's the risk which I'm seeing in the post-COVID era, and in addition to that, we are not physically together. And as a coach, that brings a dimension of a challenge, right? So that's where my question was more.
I think Dove has his hand raised. He's wanting to speak. Dove?
So I just thought, as Agile coaches, we're supposed to help an organization when there's a change. Now it's a change.
That's right.
An Agile coach is not, your role is not, or our role is not to apply the practices that we learn so that the teams will something. Our role is to find the practices that help the teams and the organization through a change. So the question, what is our role in the COVID or post-COVID or post-COVID era? It's exactly the same. It's even clearer now.
It doesn't matter. We are change agents. So we are all change agents. It doesn't really matter. So.
And to add on to what Dove said and to add on to what Saish was asking, this is not the first time just in COVID that we are working in scattered teams. There have been instances where when we work from different time zones, we have had scattered teams. So this was probably the best way to put forward our hypothesis, carry out some experimentation on how to bring teams together in this kind of a scenario, how to do some team building activities given when you are remote. So that opens up a lot many avenues to actually grow.
Yeah, if I may add to that, I think what all this did was it acted as a catalyst for organizations which thought that working from home is not really a great idea and we don't, people can't really work and stuff like that. So this actually acted as a catalyst to prove everybody wrong because they didn't have a choice.
Yeah, and let's be careful.
I believe that co-location is very much important. And
yeah. But let's be careful that we don't let this become transactional. So the issue with remote is if we don't replicate being together and we just go back to meeting, we sort of are going to move backwards to an agile version of waterfall meetings. I just heard someone talk about having to create status reports again for the first time in a long time because of that. So, I mean, I would, I like what Dovas and so many of you are saying, like, how can we say to our teams and to our organizations, what about being in person do we want to try to replicate? Like, for example, I wonder if your teams are having core hours where they're on together for X amount of hours a day so they can have that ubiquitous, constant communication. Is that happening? Yeah? Yeah, we
Yes.
get very
Yes.
we're getting some very mixed head nods and yes, very mixed.
That was
Yeah,
happening
we are
even before
trying all
COVID,
those,
actually. So
Yeah,
even before
yeah.
COVID, it was happening for distributed teams.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. So now let me just understand that you all have way more experience in being on a distributed team than I am because of the history of outsourcing with India, right? So you already have a lot of experience with this. So I would encourage you to trust yourselves and to know that actually you might be the experts in this area.
So Lyssa, there was a question from someone, not mine, but from Meenakshi, and I think this will benefit a lot of people. It says, how do I coach someone who is not willing to listen to me, or you don't believe, or doesn't believe in agile coaching? So that was the question asked by Meenakshi. I mean, maybe she can come on screen.
Let me start answering because I'm aware we have 8 minutes left. And so Meenakshi, come on and I'll ask you a question in a moment, but let me start with some general thoughts here.
So much for bringing my question. And thank you so much. Yeah, I really want to know, like, you can create influence, you can make people help if they really, but what if they don't think that you can help them, or they don't want to get coaching from?
Well, then it's time to do a designed alliance conversation. And a designed alliance conversation can happen anytime, for any time. For example, in the days when I used to fly, I would sit down in my airplane seat and I would say to the people next to me, okay, I'm on the aisle, which means that you're trapped if you have to go to the bathroom. So, and I'm probably going to sleep most of the time, but just know it's no big deal to wake me up. I go back to sleep really easily. Please do not feel trapped. That's a tiny little designed alliance moment. And so all the time we have the spikiness of like the problems we're dealing with. And something that's so stable in the middle of all that spikiness is the relationship that we can have with people. And if we think about creating that relationship as a product, and that relationship that relationship itself is as important as the stuff we try to do together, then we can navigate these times a lot more easily when someone doesn't want what we have to give. So Meenakshi, this may or may not work for you, but I would encourage you to think about what are the 2 or 3 things you absolutely need from this person to be able to do your job. And go to them and say, hey, I know you don't like this. You might not even like me. Here's the problem. I have a job to do. And there are some things that I'm going to need from you. And so I really want to enter this conversation with you and make some requests and see if you're willing to give me those things, because I need to know whether or not I'm going to be able to do my job. And the reason that you're being forthright in this conversation, or like the conversation starter, is that most people don't think about having conversations about how they want their relationship to go. People get married without having these conversations, much less work together in the workforce, right? So it's up to us to lead the way, to have these really courageous conversations with people. And you're starting it in a forthright way, not because you want to jam what you need down someone's throat, but because you have to open the space for them to learn how to respond in this kind of conversation. So I might say something like, so I know you don't like Agile, but my one thing I need from you is to not actively sabotage it. So how would that work for you? And what would that even look like for you? And then here's the hardest part. You shut up. You close your mouth and you wait for them to respond. and just see what they're willing to give on. And if you find out they're not willing to give you anything you need to do the job, well, at least you know. See, and this is why courage is a Scrum value. When I walk into organizations, or actually when I work virtually now with organizations, I can feel all of these crucial conversations that are pending, that people don't have the skills, or they don't think they have the permission to have. And these are the conversations that if someone could have them and could find out what's possible, then everything could change. But I feel them in the air so thick. There are dozens and dozens of them. And all these questions like, how do I get my product owner to do this? How do I get the business to do that? How do I get leadership to listen to me? I would say, think about what is the crucial conversation you need to have with someone, and actually practice it with a friend. Practice it with a friend. These are conversations that are not, it's not useful to go into these winging it. Yeah. Books on this, there are tons. Fierce conversations, crucial conversations, pivotal conversations. They're all basically saying the same thing. So I'd say pick up one. It might be something you all do a book study on. Maybe you all decide as a community, we want to do a book study on fierce conversations, for example, and then you practice in real life the things that are in that book. So that's just one way to go. And actually, was that helpful at all?
Definitely, very, very much. I really like your approach. That's all about relationship, and then having that open conversation, and then the fact that you need to practice this before you go to the actual conversation.
Yeah. That's why you have each other. And I get that this is a beautiful, warm community. I mean, it seems like if you said to someone, hey, I need a practice partner, someone else would say, okay, sure, I'll do it.
Lyssa, Lakshmikant here. Lyssa, I had this question I've been asking if you could direct me to any references, for creating chapters, because most of the organizations today, when they have started working remotely, and many people who are like, even having teams which are going to be cross-functional in nature, even in non-IT, and across different places, their locations are there. So there is a chance of getting silos in place. So some of them people have started thinking about chapters and communities of interest. If you could guide me to any good resource or anywhere which you find like, it's like from distributed teams perspective, and how I could actually keep knowledge intact. So
you know what? I noticed we have less than a minute.
Yeah, I know that.
And this is going to end. So let other people know actually a lot more on this topic than I do. So start searching. I would actually say, let's sit down, Lakshmikant, and do an internet search together, honestly. Yeah. So it's really important to know as a coach, what areas are you not an expert in?
Yeah.
And don't make stuff up. Oh, so I realize we got just a few questions, and I so appreciate you. So many were in there, and we addressed just a few of them, and I hope it was useful to you. And I mostly, as we have less than a minute left, I want to consciously close and tell you thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the 53 or so of you who came, and I hope that you found something useful.
Definitely, Lyssa. Thank you for your time. I mean, it was
bet.
insightful. So.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I have great hopes for you all.
I think you met them.
I do.
You have a beautiful session on Orally. I've been hearing it's a beautiful session, just to let you know.
Great. When I was in India, I was shocked by the depth of consciousness of the average person on the street. It's something you have going for you. Use it. Use it. Be conscious. Be in this present moment. Don't get all blown around by all these other things. Be in this present moment. You know how to do this. Most of the world has lost this ability. You still have it.